know it's been a minute, but I didn't get a real full-on chance in order to talk about this Demar Derozan trade. Now, I was like, when I was going through some of my winners and losers, I did put the Kings on there as a loser. I said unless they was able to pull off a Demar Derozan trade. I was like, for that being, which I sort of like this for all parties. I was like, look, Harrison Barnes goes to San Antonio, and the Bulls just get a whole bunch of hoopla and all of this. Nothing really significant. So I'm gonna just talk about those two teams. I was like, let's go with the Spurs because I think it's a little bit smoother to go with them. Is that Harrison Barnes, one, another veteran to go with Chris Paul. Because the thing is with the Spurs is that there's really no veterans on the team. That's really, I would like to be honest. I think really I know they got like Vassell and Jeremy and stuff like that, but that's been in the league a couple years. But they're not veterans in the same way. Sadie Osman is not. He doesn't have the gravitas. I know he was like a rookie, I think, or a year or so with when he was with Cleveland when LeBron was going to the playoff. He got like small run there, but not enough to warrant anything. And I was like, I know he's sort of been with the playoff team here late too, but he ain't gonna get no gravitas like that. Whereas one, you got Chris Paul, who been through a lot of wars and got to the finals and conference finals and things like that. He never won a big one. Harrison Barnes has a couple chips in his pocket. You know what? No, I think he only got. Yeah, I don't think he only got one. Yeah. He only got one because I was like, they lost that second. They lost the time where he could have got two. So, but anyway, he's still champion. I was like, he'd been the lead man before with Dallas. I was like, he'd been complimentary and a role player here since, So he's also somebody that got a little bit more cachet as well too. I was like, he also somebody that could play with Wemby. He's still relatively fine on defense. I was like, he's a floor spacer, pretty much now really at his career. So he's not clogging in anything or going to mess up anything with Wemby. He's smart enough to play in a role that he understands. I was like, he's also really one of those players that one sort of fits with like Pop and stuff like that, but like one of those players that you sort of just think of that's like a good fit of knowing your role and understanding where you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be on the team and stuff like that. I mean, some of that, granted, is because with the Warriors, guess what? He really was like the third or fourth person on that team after Steph and Clay. Sometimes you got Iggy or Dre depending on that lineup. So him knowing his role, knowing, especially at this point in his career, as old as he is, I was like, he knows what he's really supposed to do there. Also, I think in a lot of these close games, and look, we don't know how long like Chris Paul is actually not. I was like, he's gonna be on the team, I think, for pretty much the majority of the year. I was like, I don't really see him really getting traded, but we don't know how his body gonna hold up. That's the part that's really more. But with these young players, now when those situations where it's like they could have had a game or something like that. I know Harrison Barnes got a little bit of flack sometimes with the King, and don't get me wrong, there would be times where I was like, why you take that shot or whatever like that. But I think in this spot, on this team, he actually gives us ability of like the guy. I was like, once he's on the floor, it's like, okay, you can at least know that he's going to not do something reckless or wild or get in Wemby's way. Which I was like, when you got them other young players that are over here trying to figure out how to get even though they got the contract, they still trying to get their shot, they still trying to get themselves seen. That sort of makes it a little bit more difficult there. But so I think it's a really good spot. Plus, I was like, the money he's making not going to bother the Spurs. It's probably the best move they could make of getting a veteran player with the money they did have to sort of like do and not just pick. I would like just pick up somebody. Now, the Kings, on the other hand, I think the DeMar DeRozan is an interesting fit, especially because the Kings are really a fast-paced type of team. Even though they got some bonus, you wouldn't think of it, but they sort of just seem like Indiana in a lot of ways. I was like they're really just like they're I was like they're really kind of undersized too, to be honest. I was like De'Aaron Fox is like big at the point guard, but everywhere else they're sort of like. I was like King Murray. I was like 6'8". He probably like one of their better taller dudes, but I was like yeah, but I was like the way they play. I was like, and it's not that I don't think DeRozan can play with him. I just think that's it's like good, and the good thing that happens this early on is that they can have a chance to figure it out. I was like, eerie enough as I said that, I was like, they really sort of seem like Indiana. Whereas like Indiana, as fast paced as they play and stuff like that, and then you pick up Pascal Siakam, who sort of is like, I won't say a ball stopper. I was like, that's what they would have probably said so back more so today. But I was like, he is going to slow the pace down. He got to do a couple dribbles, set up his shot, that whole kind of thing. DeRozan's sort of the same thing, but I don't think I think it's going to flow a lot better than that, just because I think from what he had to do in San Antonio, where he really learned how to be a playmaker. Like his assists went up like a bunch during his time when he was in San Antonio, and then also too where he had to come to Chicago, and pretty much once you sort of lose Lonzo, I was like, you need him to basically sort of orchestrate some offense. I was like, now granted he got to score a lot more as well too, but that's why I don't think it's not as throwing the ball into a black hole kind of thing with DeMar. I was like, yes, he's going to do his midi thing. He's not shooting threes like the rest of the camp is, but I think that's also something they also need too, because I was like, there's been times where it's like them needing a shot, and it's like sometimes you just need somebody to get a bucket, and he get a bucket. I also think too that between him and De'Aaron Fox, you got two dudes that down at the end of the game that can get you a bucket. Not saying like like Monk can't do that as well too, but I was like, Aaron Fox wasn't a clutch player. I think it was a couple years ago, and I think DeRozan was pretty much like right underneath there as well too. Oh, and I think he wanted the year prior. So and I was like, if in these games, I was like, one he can always get you a bucket. Which sometimes where it's like you play this fast pace and you shooting three, sometimes you just really need a bucket. I was like him able to pass the ball and playmate means that the ball's not going to necessarily stick in his hands, and I was like they got enough perimeter players that you can really do a lot with. Fox shooting threes, Monk, cause I was like, and Murray, who all could stand still and shoot threes. I was like, and also too, I was like, I think also, while you might be leaving a little something from the defense of Barnes to DeRozan, I think you bump up the offense enough that overtakes any of whatever Barnes was giving you on defense. Like, I don't think it was high enough on his defensive end to overcome the offense that you get with DeRozan. The lineups I think will be, I was like, be tricky because cause they're like 6'6" and all and below pretty much if you do like a lineup of like say Fox, Murray, Monk, and Sabonis, of course. Yeah, but I think it doesn't raise their ceiling of them being like title contenders. That's not what that does. But something like this to me is able to make sure that you have a better chance of getting to that play-in. Like I was like, because I was like, for instance, they would have had DeRozan when they faced the Pelicans. They might have won against the Pelicans. I was like, it gives them enough to bow. I was like I said, you're not maybe going to like fourth in the West, but solidifying a spot in the playoffs is what this move sort of does. Especially when everybody else has sort of either stayed about the same or gotten better. Thunder gotten better. I was like, the Wolves are pretty much the same, but it was top three. I was like, you could say the Nuggets sort of drop off, but they're still going to be in the top five. Lakers are stagnant, so it's like you should basically be about even with them. I was like, the Warriors, as of right now, you should be better than them. I know that I was like, because you knocked them out last year, and they really haven't gain anything extra. I was like, they got good pieces, but they haven't gained anything extra. I was like, then you also got to make sure you contend with basically the Grizzlies get once they get Ja back. How does Houston propel themselves again? Does Victor make the next step for the Spurs? I was like, Phoenix is still going to be in that same spot. The Pelicans, we got to see what they do. So you had to do a move, and that's why I'm like, you could have did way worse stuff than DeRozan. I was like, that's sort of what this sort of comes down to. That you had to do something, and this is probably the best of, because you really wasn't going to do any real trade that would have made any as significant as this. I think with this, though, I was like, the fact that I feel like, I won't necessarily say it's slander, but I was like, the way that it's like DeRozan sort of gets like talked about, where it's kind of like, oh, y'all got DeRozan, and it's like DeRozan's a really hella good player. Like, yes, you might have to work him into the concept of the team, but I was like, after that, I was like, you added an all-star guy. He still is an all-star level type of guy. Like, it's not like you're just getting like a role player. I was like, he still gives you a lot on this team that this team still sort of kind of needs to compete with everybody else. But yeah, I was like, I like to pick up. I like it better than any. I was like, anything else that's on the market was really not going to really do anything or move the needle significantly. And I'm not saying that this, like I said, it's not going to boost them into the number 4 spot. But I think if this is a move that makes sure that when you're in that bunch of 7 to 10, you might be number 7, or you get into the playoffs. Like, I know 7 is not really that far from 8, but I was like, that does help. Like, I'm like, for a team that looked like they was up on the uptick 2 years ago to not making it last year, that you kind of want to keep the ship steady. And I was like, DeRozan can do that. So I was like, in a competitive West, they made a move that I think keeps them competitive along with everything. But anyway, that's how I feel about the whole trades or whatever. Yeah, anyway, till next move, yeah. Till then, next time, peace out.